Welcome everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you for joining me. This is top 5 glam metal albums of 1992. So these artists and their sound, whether we call them glam metal or hair bands, they stood out against the changing tides at the time. Remember, grunge had broken big in 1991. And they gave us some of the last great albums of the glam metal era, and I want to go through 5 of those with you. But before we do, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please click the button. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you enjoyed the video or you know someone that would, please share it, help get the word out that way. That would also help. And as I always say, by subscribing, you'll be able to stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music, just like this top 5 glam metal albums of 1992. And I've got some honorable mentions, some of the bigger names that were out at the time that I'm not going with right here. And in some cases, questionable whether they actually fall under the glam metal hair band banner. But Trickster and their second album here was a fantastic release and follow-up to their debut. I like that one. Damn Yankees Don't Tread, their first album, far more in the glam metal style, but this album here definitely more in the classic rock, which is why I wasn't including it. Real good stuff. Great White, you know, on the fence about whether they're glam metal or not, but definitely by this point they were far more blues rock than anything else. But Psycho City, fantastic album, kind of went under the radar at the time, but just really solid for them. And then Kiss Revenge, great album. I don't really consider them glam metal, although they've done the glam metal thing. This album was a far more metal album or hard rock album than previous things that they had been doing, and a great one at that. Extreme, 3 sides to every story, just another really great one. Didn't make my top 5 though. If I was doing a top 10, a lot of these artists would have been in there. And Def Leppard Adrenalize, I mean, a lot of people will argue what genre they actually fall under. I mean, they started with the new wave of British heavy metal. They were hard rock. They did the glam thing. They did 80s pop metal, right? So really, what category do they fall under? But it's a great 1992 album. That one definitely made my top 10 of 1992 kind of thing. But we are talking about the top 5 of glam metal here. First one up, number 5, Steelheart, Tangled in the Reins. This is their second studio album. It's produced by Tom Werman, who worked with Motley Crue. Amazing vocals from Mike Matajevic, if you don't know who he is. Just a fantastic vocalist. Certainly if you know the debut, you know what I'm talking about here. This is just good, dirty, sleazy glam metal at its best. However, there were no songs like what was on the debut that made them really popular. The song, I'll Never Let You Go. And it's just missing that really big power ballad like that. And of course, at the time, that's all radio really wanted to play was the big power ballad. This album kind of flew under the radar. I really like the song Sticky Side Up. It's a fantastic hard rock song. But like I said, no real power ballads on it, but it is a great album. I actually like it better than the debut personally. Next up, number 4, we got Saigon Kick and the Lizard. Again, I think this is their best album. This is their second studio album, and it was the last to feature the original vocalist, Matt Kramer, before the guitarist Jason Bieler took over vocals on the third album. And it continued melding their different eclectic styles into their own unique sound. And the band bridged the hair metal sound with the then current alternative sound. And despite how they were marketed, I always thought they had more in common with Jane's Addiction than with the hair band market. But you know, that is how they were marketed, and they did have songs that fit into that vein. Certainly, I mean, the big hit that was off here, the power ballad Love Is on the Way, which went to number 12 on the Billboard 200, helping the album to be certified gold, certainly qualifies them as that. But a lot of these bands you'll see, I mean, certainly could fit under multiple categories, but it's the era and the genre at the time that they were under and marketed and played with and toured with and all of that sort of stuff that I'm sort of focusing on here as to how I'm choosing these. Number 3, Warrant and Dog Eat Dog. Third studio album by them, produced by Michael Wagner, who worked with, of course, Skid Row and Dokken and Extreme, to name a few. But like other bands at the time, they continued to shed their pop metal stylings for a much harder edge, and sort of evident by first single that came off the album, Machine Gun, which was a much harder edged metal song than typical sort of fare that they had done like Cherry Pie and stuff like that. They did maintain on this album, though, the gang style vocals and the layered production from previous albums, which for me was what, I think made the sound of Warrant and why I was able to continue on and really enjoy this album here. My favorite song off it is actually number 7, Hollywood So Far So Good. Probably because it is the closest track to the material off their previous 2 albums. But I like this album, even though there's a lot of people I think that don't like it. And again, it flew under the radar at the time, just not being popular due to their image and previous successes. The album itself was still certified gold in the end of the day. All right, coming in at number 2, Slaughter in the Wildlife. Second studio album by these guys. Debuted at number 8 on the Billboard 200 album chart at the time. And, just more of what we loved from the debut. They continued it right on into this record. Featured 3 hit singles that came off it at the time. The first one that they put out, The Wildlife, is another track very similar to Up All Night, just continuing in that vein. Days Gone By, the second track, or single I should say, off of it, was supposed to be their Fly to the Angels off their debut, but it just didn't quite catch on the same way. I think this one was overproduced and not quite as unique. That, Flight of the Angels was an acoustic-based track, and that was kind of unique at that time. Bands weren't doing the acoustic thing yet. But this one here was a more kind of standard power ballad fare and just didn't quite catch on for them. And again, I think that was partly due to the 1992 time era we were in at the time. Third single, though, Real Love, which was a great track, and the video of it, if you've never seen it, check it out. It's actually got Shannon Doherty, who came from the TV show 90210. So that was kind of cool, big popular, metal band at the time, having a real famous actress from the TV show at the time appear in their video. And that was kind of also a new thing. There usually weren't these celebrities appearing in music videos back then, but it shows you how big they were. The album itself was ultimately certified gold. So you can see, even in 1992, with the era that we were in with grunge and all of that, a lot of these bands still managed to find success. I really think it came down to the media at the time that killed off glam metal and hair metal and stuff of that nature by deciding they weren't cool, whereas plenty of fans were still very much into it. All right, we're down to the number 1 choice here. Coming in at number 1, Firehouse, and their second album, Hold Your Fire. This album actually spent 30 weeks on the Billboard 200 album chart. I thought that was pretty amazing, ultimately being certified gold. But to spend that long on the charts when this kind of music was in a downturn, pretty amazing. Featured 2 real big hit singles off it, although there were actually 4 songs that were played. Reach for the Sky, the debut single from it, was a real great hard-hitting rocker. They really toughened up their sound and image, but of course retained the glam roots that they started with. But the second single that came off it, the one that I think, put this album into the stratosphere at the time, was When I Look Into Your Eyes, and it was a number 8 Billboard Hot 100, so a top 10 hit off this in 92 when releasing it. But again, we talked about it. The ballads were the big things. If you had the good ballad, the radio stations played you, and it seemed like at that time that was really all that bands could do to get the radio play, on the radio, as opposed to their harder rock songs that they could have gotten on radio earlier on. For me, though, favorite tracks off this album were actually track 3, Sleeping With You, and track 12, Hold the Dream. That song there, it's the last one on the album, and it's it's a slower bass song that gets heavier as it goes on. It's a really good track. If you don't know it, I do recommend checking that out. So there you go. That's the top 5 glam metal albums of 1992. Some of these albums ran under the radar, others still were pretty successful. A lot of people didn't tune into these things, but as I mentioned, a lot of them went gold, so the success was still there for these guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Leave your comments. Let me know your thoughts. I'm sure you guys have your own top 5 glam metal albums of 1992. Let me know what that is. I'm sure we'll argue over who was glam or who wasn't glam. That's just the nature of things. I'm choosing to use the word glam metal for this, but it easily could have been hair bands and a number of other topics, or I should say genres of music. Anyway, hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please remember to comment, like, and subscribe. Again, let me know your thoughts. Hope everyone has a great day, and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.